Scuff? Scuff, maybe. Look. Oh, God, why is everything different? What? Okay. Okay. Well, we have a little bit of scuff. I need to fix stuff very quickly. Look, we've got a whole new setup. A new setup for this scene. So that we can do, like, book reviews and stuff. And I've not used it before. And I thought it was fine. But it was, in fact, not fine. I thought it was fine. I'm pretty sure it was fine. I wonder why it stopped being fine. I may have goofed a bit. But that's fine. I mean, if I didn't goof, would it even be a stream? Like, with me? Hang on. I also need to move alert box. You can be in the middle. And Twitch chat, you can go over here where people can actually see you. But yes, hi! Hang on. Wait. I also need to ping Discord. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Scuff can read. You were thinking of Birmingham. God. I'll have you know that we literally are the home of the Black Library, lol. Well, so hey, Zira. You were in fact first. Hey, Halbert. Thank you for the lurk. Toby, hi. How you doing? How you doing? Hey, Mathball. Hey, Silver. Wordbearer is the real reason the Imperium is basically bugged. Yes! Yes, they got a new novel. A very new novel, and I am very excited. I read the whole thing. I literally read the whole thing in a day, and it's great. It's a possibly one of my favorite novels. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased and they're my favorite Legion. I might be a bit biased. But, like, it's a really good novel. It's a really good novel, chat. And what am I saying, guys? I'm a dirty Eldar? No, I'm a filthy heretic. There's a difference. But yeah. So we're going to go through, and there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So if you're looking for this, if you're looking for this particular, if you want to read this book, probably not the stream for you, or the video if you're watching this on YouTube. We're going to go through the whole thing. It's a good book. Really, really good book. I wasn't familiar with any of David Annandale's work. And yeah, it's a really good novel. At some point you'd want a proper Wordbearers versus either Black Templars or Exorcists book. Ooh! Oh, I'd like that. I'd like that. I can see Wordbearers versus Black Templars. Why is that not a dynamic that gets set up more? And metal. Does the Emperor clap? I mean, the Emperor can't. I don't think he can move. I'm pretty sure the Emperor cannot move on the Golden Throne. Pretty sure. But no one sees what happens in the Golden Throne, so we can't prove anything. We can't prove or disprove anything. So, yeah. Does Emperors clap? That makes him an easy target. He's not really, though. He's got his 10,000 fucking Adeptus Custodes. Here. Does it clap? I mean, he's kind of like a corpse. I don't know that he has enough skin to clap. Are you guys trying to say something I'm not getting? Am I too autistic to understand the joke? Possibly. But yes. Our novel opens in space, of all the things. We could get Erebus versus Sigismund in the scouring. I would love that. I would actually love that. But Erebus is meant to be quite a good fighter. He's just not the best. Like, I imagine, like... So Khan can beat Erebus. But... Erebus... Khan can beat Erebus. And Sigismund can beat Khan. So that, by that logic, fight for fight, Sigismund would win versus Erebus. But Erebus can summon greater demons. So, I mean... Yeah, I mean, based on the lore, we know that Sigismund survives whatever encounter he has. Because he gets killed by Abaddon, right? You're asking if the Emperor's butt claps. I mean, I don't think he has any cheeks left, my dude. I don't think he has any. But yes. Cerastes, first acolyte of the Epiphany's flame, is lured into an ambush by the Adeptus Sororitas Order of the Thorn, which I guess are they're derived from the Order of the Bloody Rose, and use very similar doctrines to them. The ship has already been, more or less... They've already lost the fight at the opening of the book. And he's making his way to the chapel, hoping to regroup with the Dark Apostle Eurybios for a final stand against the Sisters, and hopefully to basically survive. He gets ambushed by Retributors, who let loose heavy flamers on him, and he evades their fire and throws crack grenades, which tear open the hull, sucking them into the void, while he maglocks to the floor and stays on the ship. He makes his way to the chapel, and he finds the Dark Apostle wounded, and demanding that they sacrifice themselves so that they can take the Sisters with them. But Cerastes decides no. He believes his destiny is greater because he has seen it in the Word. And so he slays the Dark Apostle and takes his Crozius, his symbol of authority, as the new Dark Apostle of their warband. Hey, Infernal, how you doing? He declares, I am the hand of the gods. I am the blessing of the word. Palatina Azura, the leader of this particular coven, storms the room, full of hate, blowing open the door. The 8-pointed star is toppled by the force of the explosion, and falls on top of Cerastes, pinning him to the ground. He prays in the language of the word, chaos itself, and a price is paid. The ship breaks, and he falls into the void. At which point, we journey to the planet where our story takes place. And imagine this is how you are woken up. And we meet the first of, the second main character in this lovely story. We meet Rack, a hard worker, a salvager. She's trying to get her parents up. They're both terribly ill, as they've been called to work and to sermon, but they can no longer work. Their bodies are failing them in the lower glyphs of the city. Toxic air and pollution has caused them to age at an accelerated rate. Their father can't even remember her. Aviol, an admin of the member of the administratum, a serf, is here to evict her parents because they have not paid the rent, and they simply say that other people can pay the rent, and so they have to leave. Rack asks him to wait till the end of the day so that she can go to work and get the payment for the rent. And her parents, all they can really do is obey. Hearing the call on the Vox broadcast throughout the city, they rise. They rise and follow it. The tolling of the bell, the call to sermon and work. As Rack argues with the serf, they are gone. She sees as the door is open, they're nowhere to be seen. Not amongst the crowds, not amongst the other workers. They only see the blackness of the pit below. They were gone. Aviel commends them for being so dutiful as to rid the world of themselves, as they could not pay their rent. And so Rack sends him right after them, toppling off the edge and into the darkness. Cerestes wakes on the obeisance, the freighter bait that was used for the trap. It is with near no power. Apothecary Orthian is with him, and has saved 15 gene seeds from their brothers. They decide to wait, knowing that they are near a habitable world, near their original destination. And so they wait for the distress beacon to bring someone to them. Rack, the salvager, having tried to escape the authorities for the murder of the administratum serf, decides to go to work to buy herself a sliver of time. And so she would not be prepared for who they would stumble upon. Cerastus offers no threat to them as they arrive on his ship. He simply asks to talk. He asks to talk, and nothing more. And with that, Rak and her crew agree to take Cerastes and Ortheon to their world. And so they arrive. He learns of Mazarine, the cardinal of the world, and the planet's de facto ruler. It's been over a century since Cerastes left the world. Meanwhile, Palatina Sura bids farewell to the cardinal, the aging ruler of the world, his sense of inadequacy apparent. She makes it clear to him that she hates this world, that scholarly pursuits are naught but a gateway to corruption, and she would be eager to see it purged. Cerastes gathers his clergy, and they descend into the lower levels, slaying wasteworms to feed starving populations down there, and carving out a safe haven for those who choose, well, those who have no choice but to exist on the lower levels. Cerastes, his faithful, the flock has grown in just a few days beyond the hundreds. Even if they do not truly understand, they change, having invited the powers of chaos into their souls. Cerastes begins a great sermon in the lower levels, gathering atop the waste that is the scripts of the Ministorum, absolute mountains of paper and parchment, holy texts to be spread, but far more than they can export, far more than are willing to buy or read them. They fall to the lower levels as slag heaps. And Cerastes proclaims, challenging the Emperor himself to smite him as he preaches, but he cannot. The Emperor is not there. However, as if somehow responding, one slag heap collapse, burying dozens of the flock. Cerastes himself is buried, only to rise through a mountain of paper that should have killed people. Some, in fact, are killed. He declares that he will not be silenced, and begins a bonfire of holy texts. The smoke rises so high that the upper glyphs, the higher levels of the hive, begin to take note. The mob grows larger and larger by the day into what he calls a true congregation. Enforcers of the ecclesiarchy arrive in Toroxes to disperse the crowd. Cerastes' trap is sprung, instructing Ortheon to kill as few as necessary. And so he begins to convert people of the middle hive. And he also sends Rak, after continuing to convert more to the true faith. He sends Rak up to convert those in the upper levels. Marshal Provolok of the Enforcers reports of the fire and how several squads of Enforcers have gone missing. Mazarine sends Bishop Borthus to preach with the contingent of Enforcers, hoping to avoid the Order of the Thorn being brought in. It is a night raid, hundreds of Enforcers blaring hymns and fanfare over Torok's horns, and the cult is forced to retreat, becoming darkness. Mazarine, Provolok, and Borthus meet to discuss how well it went, but acknowledge that it is not over yet. Cerastes and Ortheon plan their counterattack, and building a parchment fire large enough to draw Borthus and his Enforcers straight there. The cultists swarmed the broken ranks actually, I want to share a moment from this book, which I didn't actually record. I remember this bit, actually. Astartes begins to chant, invoking the language of the word. A spell strikes out at the enforcers, transforming the vehicles to flesh and the enforcers into chaos spawn. Writhing masses turn on their brothers, and the cultists swarm their broken ranks. Porthos attempts to escape, but a sorcerer's blast put paid to their thought, and the bishop was captured. A long conversation is held between Porthos and Cerastes in captivity. He seems pleased as he leaves Porthos on the edge of revelation. Provolac informs Mazarine that they lost the unit and Porthos is missing. And unexplainable changes happening to the corpses and the vehicles. The ground shakes, and a rumbling approaches. Rag begins her attack. Converts execute it through simple, subtle means. Minor sabotage, a lever not quite turned fully on or off, a vent plugged with a rag. Vehicles given the green light to go a few seconds too early. And so one ship crashes into another, causing a cascade of failure as one of the pillars of the great hive of this shrine falls. Cerastes and Orthion and Porthos travel to an abandoned sector, using his Crozius as a key. He reveals a hidden door marked with an 8-pointed star. Upon opening it, he finds a cache of Wordbearer's power armor, pristine, equipment from the Great Crusade itself, available for them to use, should they find new brothers to wear it. 2 of the upper glyphs have fallen. General Lender of the Astra Militarum is called in to take over dealing with the heretics. The Zealot spears will root them out on a larger scale. Greater damage and casualties are to be expected. Orthion asks for a laboratory to craft the new astartes for this armor. Cerastes reveals to Porthos that this world was a Wordbearer's world, and that he too is a native. And while Balthus falls... Hey, Eden. Thank you so much for the 10-stream streak. Hope that you're well. Good morning. Good morning to our friends from overseas. Well, that reminds me, chat, we literally ended Act 1 and started Act 2 when they found those suits of armor. The Imperial Guard strikes in force, using Hellstrike missile batteries and Leman Russ tanks and chimeras to lay waste to the lower glyphs. The Cult of the Abandoned does not retaliate, laying low. Cerastes, Borthus, Rak, and Ortheon go to the Citadel of Faith incarnate. I can't remember how to pronounce that. Incardinate. The cells of infinite rigor. Using Rak's shuttle, their plan is a simple one. They are to visit the Ministorum. This Ministorum retreat, where so many wizened scholars gather and speak over the Vox to the whole world. And so Borthus begins his sermon, decrying the Imperial Creed and the faith of this world. However, the Imperial Guard are quick to respond, attacking and executing many innocents in the retreat. Cerastes grabs Borthus and carries him to safety, dodging the las fire of the Imperial Guard and their heavy weapons, leaping from a balcony, trying desperately to latch onto the shuttle that Rak pilots, turning sideways to allow them in, but he can't make it. Using his maglocks, he latches on to the side of the shuttle, clambering his way, and with a single fluid motion, throws Borthus into the shuttle before clambering himself in. Thunderbolt fighters pursue them through the city skies. Taking the shuttle is turned to slag. However, Rak is able to pilot them to safety, away from their pursuers. Carefully, she guides them on a crash landing. Fortunately, no one dies, but they are without one of their few resources now. They do their best to leave no trace in the wreckage. Under the heavy bombardment, the tunnels are beginning to collapse. More and more of the scattered cultists die in the endless bombing. The tide is now working against Cerastes and his cult. They plan for Borthus to preach once more. Cerastes laments his pride and the losses that they've suffered. Hey Travis, how you doing? 4 are brought of the cult at the request of Cerastes, whose faith is adamantine, and their bodies are carved in ritual sacrifice to the gods, praying for demonic manifestation. He is denied, but told something else. The enunciation of the word. I am still a little bit sick, but I'm mostly better now. I had a great time yesterday. I woke up feeling crap, but I'm fine now. I had a great time reading this book yesterday, so I kind of am just very excited to kind of talk about it to everyone. It was really, really enjoyable, honestly. Days of preparation pass, and Borthus moves into position for his sermon, while Cerastes and Rak run the gauntlet of bombs as they use the enunciation of the word to conjure a spell of chaos, triggering a sort of volcanic eruption. Meanwhile, General Lender, Provolac, and Cardinal Mazarin puzzle over just who Cerastes is. They see the eruption, but it's paper. But the words change from litany to heresy. Borthus begins his Vox sermon, and the Imperial Guard rush to contain the heresy. Many view and read the theoretical texts, and slowly, like an infection, the heresy takes root and spreads through all stratas of the population. Some dismiss it and are visited by demons in the night. Others find inspiration from the words they read or hear. And as if overnight, the cult grows in the thousands at all levels, meanwhile tunneling and building their lab for Ortheon. Cerastus holds a grand celebration, and at its peak, the psychic energy building, he unleashes the paroxysm of Slanesh. The cult is sent into a riotous frenzy, erupting up to the upper levels like a volcano of flesh, crushing all in a stampede along the upper glyphs. General Lender plans to gather the rioters and exterminate them all after they exhaust themselves. Orthus's mob is almost caught in an armoured ambush and are forced to retreat. Cerastus, Ortheon, and Rak and their cultists take the laboratorium of holy pain, quickly eliminating the guards. They make the last survivor watch as they begin to forge their fresh heretic astartes. Cardinal Mazarin is panicking, pacing. General Lender assures him and departs to finish off the cultists. Ortheon warns Cerastes that the new word-bearers will be limited, raw and untrained, mere cultists elevated to superhuman creatures. And Cerastes can only wait, anxious that his followers may not last. He spread his forces thinner, he prays for the plague, and has promised salvation, but his eyes are claimed in exchange for this promised plague. General Lender seems assured of victory, and takes the cardinal below the fog line to the barren sea of death that they have been making. Deacon Herius is called to address the people and explain the violence with a litany. The cult has been suppressed. If it wished to take the upper glyphs, but Cerastus sought a chapel, a small force that they took, the chapel of the sacred abject. The deacon's sermon is racked with Nagel's gifts, broadcast on Vox across the world as a miracle of rot sets in across the population. As the plague takes the sermon, blood rain erupts from statues and clouds bursting overhead. Cerastes struggles as the god sap his strength, sending the cultists to fight. And Rak escorts him back to the laboratory, recounting the plague's effects. The Imperials are warped. The guardsmen turn against each other as some are mutated into spawns and pox walkers and other creatures of the warp. General Lender reports forces stretched thin, with little hope to contain the cult now. Mazarin resolves to call the Palatine Asura. The conspirator, Tabical, kills the messenger before they can deliver it to the astropathic choir, and alerts Cerastes and the cult over the Vox. And they hear as this cultist is caught. This guard should have been at his post. And of course the sisters are called. The Order of the Thorn arrive, less than impressed with the state of the cardinal in the world. All has been as Palatine Asura believed it would be on this world, and she demands his penance. Cardinal Mazarin is put on trial by the Order of the Thorn, charged with dereliction of command and weakness of faith. He offers no defence, knowing that it would simply be childish to deny. Penitence is his gifted sentence. Asura, Lender, and Provolac discuss battle plans. They offer to support the Palatine. They will shell the glyph towers, including friend and foe alike, to deny Cerastes the opportunity to strike from alternate paths. This would narrow his plans and force him to fight on the Palatine's terms and no other. The Dark Apostle and his forces are ambushed by the shelling, but escape. Lenda witnesses the two towers fall, grieves the deaths, and almost seems doubtful. She feels that the deaths were not on the cult's hands, nor Cerastes's, and laments that they are, in fact, on the hands of their own people. Cerastes felt the strain of Asura's strategy seemingly on the verge of panic. There was no more time or space. He needed Ortheon's reinforcements, and only had limited paths to attack now. Doom or victory, they would climb to one or the other. As he ascends to a final sermon for the battle. Less than an hour later they charged. A volcano of flesh erupting up the towers, spiritual charge crackling through the cult, of willing sacrifice reaching critical mass. The sisters begin their work, burning the librarium, leaving nothing of their own sacred texts to be read. And they begin their pursuit of Cerastes, crushing all between them in their search for him. Retributors, castigators, immolators, and seraphim all present for this initial wave. The cultists purred. Overwhelmed, the enforcers and the Astra Militarum attempt to retreat, but the sisters inspire a sense of fear in them that they would not tempt, forcing them to either fight or die. Asura catches up to her sisters, reporting that they found Cerastes, who killed two of them in passing. Despite warning of a trap, the Palatine pursues, pushing forward with the immolator into the storm of smoke. Through near endless bodies of cultists, bolt rounds hit them. Asura takes a hit. Protected by her armor, a heavy flamer explodes, the sister throwing herself to her doom to save her sisters, and a Dominion skull explodes after a hit by a bolt round. The Apostle approaches, triumphant, with a squad of fresh word-bearers. Cerastes and Asura meet in combat for the first time since the ship was destroyed. While untrained, his new astartes offer their support. Throwing crack grenades, he strikes the bridge the sisters are crossing with his Crozius. The combined force causes it to crumble and crack and fall. Almost every sister falls to their death. Only a single tank survives while the others fall a countless time. Asura almost perishes, but the momentum of her flight causes her to crash into the window below, on the level below. Cerastes simply waves at her with a smug little smirk, celebrating his minor triumph in the moment. Unfortunately for Cerastes, boldened by his pride as he was, he did not know that the sisters had held back the bulk of their forces. Exorcists and castigated, Zephyrim and Seraphim and Archoflagellants meet the fresh wave of cultists, driving them back. The word-bearers rush desperately from the ambush to find a wash of incendiary detonations crash over them as they reach their goal. They fall. Cerastes awakes, broken, unable to move, buried under an unknowable amount of rubble as he bears the weight of a building atop him. But, wounded as he is, he still finds a way out, digging and climbing through everything he was buried under. Stumbling through the streets and orienting himself to find his goal, he finds a single penitent engine searching for prey. It was Mazarine, The machine came at him. Fire and chain and flail and buzzsaw coming at him, pinning him to the wall. At point blank, Mazarine drew his bolt pistol and fired it into the arm's joint, severing it, and then following up. His Crozius smashing in to the former cardinal's face. Now a voice that was not his spoke to him. Cerastes saw the battlefield and saw defeat. Rack and Borthus returned to him. The course of their exposure to the Dark Apostle had mutated them, and now their long exposure to the psychic energies had caused the two Dark Acolytes to fuse into a single being of chaos. One mouth praising, the other screaming, and then an epiphany struck. Cerastes advanced towards the final altar, and then the planet shook in horror. Demons of all great powers erupted, blessing and slaying mortal souls as they appeared. Friend or foe, it didn't matter. All were but fodder for the great powers. Isura intercepts Cerastes. They meet in battle, hate for hate, faith for faith, evenly matched. But Cerastes was wounded and drained by his sorcerer's power. For the boons of the dark gods have their prices, and Cerastes had been paying them this whole time. Crushed by a building, his joints needed time to heal, and his leg buckled, and he fell off balance. 2 strikes from Isura the Palatine were delivered. Her power blade threw a fracture in his armor, and he fell. Still alive somehow, but immobile. He had claimed his victory, and there was nothing she could do to deny it. The world had known the touch of the warp in a way that could not be measured. Isura promises him that his victory will be ash, and that this world will burn. His word-bearers find him. He warns of the impending exterminatus. They ask him to show them the way. He can't move, despite how much he wishes to. He laments that he cannot show them the way. And then he has one final realization and gives one last sacrifice, and the world was broken. Cerastes drifted in and out of consciousness. Orthaon, he saw, had picked him up. He woke on a ship, a great mass conveyor. His brothers with him, Rack and Borthus, sermonizing his warped cultists, the raptured. They had survived, and so he takes with himself a final lesson in humility. And that was kind of the whole story. It was great. I genuinely, like, I don't know if I've done it justice trying to tell you, to kind of, like, shorten it and kind of tell you this story in the space of an hour. But, hi, Cloud. Lol. How you doing? But I really liked this book. This book was honestly one of my favorites. I love how Cerastes never really has to kill anyone. he doesn't really have to kill anyone, and he doesn't really try to kill people in the novel. He's mostly just about talking, which I think is interesting and not what a lot of people think about when they think Chaos Space Marine. Of course, he is a word bearer. They are the talkers. They are the diplomats. They are the faithful, after all. Story time is over already. Kinda. We kind of just went through all of the... We kind of just went through it all. I really liked it, though. It was a good time. I love Cerastes. He's genuinely one of the most charismatic characters I think has been written in a Black Library thing. I know my voice acting is probably a bit shit, but like, yeah. I hope I did him some justice. I loved Asura. Asura is fucking fanatical. She's a fanatic zealot, and I think she works perfectly as the foil to a Dark Apostle, because they are at their core exactly the same, and you see them both identifying like parallels in fate and what they think that they're meant to be doing. I kind of feel bad for the loyalists, because I feel like Asura, like, yes, the warp is horrible and the demons are horrible, but I kind of feel like Asura was worse for the everyday common person of that world. In my opinion. In my opinion, and based on the evidence that we have seen. Like, it wasn't the word bearers that decided to fucking blow up the civilians. They were just talking. It was kind of crazy. But I guess, you know, escalation is escalation, isn't it? What else? What else? I kind of loved that we got to see General Lender's subtle reactions to everything that was going on, and how she's just like, she just wants things to be sorted, and she can't. And she's like the most competent person there, but she doesn't have the tools for what she needs to do. But because they're only like a very small regiment. It's the only regiment that they've got. I like how they had themes of pride, fate, and destiny throughout the book for the very spiritual characters. And I feel like I love how it was a journey about how they had to realize it wasn't actually about them, but about the will of the gods. I liked the exploration of the concept of the word as a physical kind of thing. Well, not a physical thing, but like a spiritual thing, not just like a book, but like the word as a language and a power in the warp. Or the word of Lorgar. And I kind of wonder just what it means beyond what we've seen. I kind of enjoyed and I kind of felt bad for Cerastes in that final fight. Because, hey Aeon, how you doing? Because, like, he's doing everything right, but he's paying the price for every boon and every spell that he has to cast, every bargain with the dark gods. I mean, he loses an eye, he loses his strength, he has a hard time moving in his armor, but for his final sacrifice, the gods actually give him a reward, and they give him a new eye, but it's like a demon eye. Because they took both of his eyes from him. They took his eyes from him before. So now he's just got a big demon eye. Well, maybe not a big demon eye, but a demon eye. And, yeah. I guess that was the only real way that Asura was able to win. Like, if he was at full strength, if he didn't have to deal with, like, bargains with demons and pay blood prices to the dark gods, I think he would have probably won. And that's always been the theme. It's like, throughout the book, like, he questions himself whether or not he thinks he can actually win, because he knows that he has had these prices to pay, and it has been rough. He's not had an easy time of it. But yeah, I really like this book. I've never read anything David Annandale has done before. He's an author that's been working in the Black Library for years now. It's not his first time doing a Warhammer novel. I might actually go and look up some of his other books, because I really liked the pacing, the style of this. I know some people don't like his work. I know he did The Beast Arises, and that's a very old book at this point. But I really enjoy it. I like his writing. He knows how to pace his stuff. It's a really, really good book. It's a really, really good book. And I think if you want an exploration of if you want an exploration of Imperial society. Also, this is a shrine world of all the things. Shrine worlds are meant to be really nice, but it just seems horrible. I don't know if that's deliberate, or maybe I'm misunderstanding what shrine worlds are like, because the last time I read anything about a shrine world, it was in the Dark Heresy RPG books. They're meant to be like... I always thought that shrine worlds were meant to be like the next step below a garden world, kind of. But yeah, do recommend. 10 heresies out of 10. I kind of get, like, it was a very small story, but yeah. They, 2 word bearers versus a world, and they won. Also, you know what's funny? Abaddon the Despoiler is like, no, we can't use the power of the warp to take out worlds. It has to be my victory. I'm not allowed to use chaos power to destroy Cadia. Let me just fight over it for hundreds of years. And then throw a tantrum and throw my Blackstone Fortress into it. Meanwhile, Cerastes. Lol, I'm dying. Have this planet. And then the gods eat it, and it's fine. And he somehow survives. You like my gremlin model with the flamey background? Yes. I also like my model with the flamey background. Hey, Katachan. Doom. That's why we call him Failbadon the Armless. Yeah, like some literally no-name Dark Apostle who promoted himself. No one made him a Dark Apostle. He just killed the guy that was in charge and was like, okay, fuck it. I'm the Dark Apostle now. I'm gonna take your Crozius and start my own cult with blackjack and hookers. And it worked. It literally worked. He did everything he needed to do. And I mean, I hope I've done the book justice. It was really fun. I hope that you guys liked my telling of the story. If there's a book you guys want me to read next, yeah, I'll be honest. The most you tend to think of the word bearers is like, yeah, Lorgar's being chased by a raven. You guys know that lore is like from 8,000 years ago, right? In the setting. You guys know that Lorgar in the modern lore is actually out and about. He's like out and about in the galaxy. Doing stuff. Like, he's literally been written in codexes as out in the galaxy, spreading, like, corrupting worlds and taking stuff. He's not running from a raven. If Corvus Corax wants to come at Lorgar, I'm sure Corvus Corax will figure out how to get out of the warp and come after Lorgar. But he's too busy being emo. He's too busy being emo and quoting Edgar Allan Poe. Like, my god, man, it's been like over 40,000 years. Can you, like, come up with some original material? Like, fuck, what's his name again? Corvus, that's the one. There's a lot of speculation that the next loyal Primarch will be Corvus returning from the warp. I have heard none of that in my circles. I have heard absolutely none of that in my circles. Absolutely none. I think that the most likely are going to be... The most likely Primarchs to come back... The most likely Primarchs to come back from the Loyalist side... I reckon it's going to be Leman Russ and Jagatai Khan. Jagatai is like the easiest to bring back. Hands down. Jagatai is the easiest to bring back. And no one can really say otherwise. I'm pretty sure he's the easiest to come back. Because he's just in the webway, right? Probably in Comora, having a great time. Leman Russ... I don't know. They can't really bring Leman Russ without it being the wolf time. And what is the wolf time? They had a book called Wolf Time, and it wasn't the wolf time. Lemon Russ probably is going to be next. I'd wager Lemon Russ is probably next. Because the Space Force have a big model range, right? They've just had a big model range refresh as well. The chances are they'd cap it off with, like, a Primarch. Let's be honest, the returning Primarchs will be those that Games Workshop thinks their models will sell the most. That's true. The last book in the end of edition campaign is going to be Armageddon. Really? We've already had an Armageddon book this edition, though. We've already had an Armageddon book. Last year we had an Armageddon book. My god, okay. Technically it would be, what, like the 6th Armageddon we've had? Because we had the Battle of Ulanor. We had the First War of Armageddon. We had the Second War of Armageddon. We had the Third War of Armageddon. And we had the Fourth War of Armageddon. Yeah, I guess it would be 5th. I feel like all of these campaign books that they're doing, they're not going to be related to each other. I feel like when they're not related to each other. I don't think they're going to be related to each other. Anyway, I'm going to close out this segment. I'm not going to end the stream, though.